What are the codes of light? And what does it mean to receive an energy download? How does it feel to get the codes of light into your body? And what can you do to help it along the way? Watch this video and find out. We're going to be talking about the language of light codes in the universe. The language of light is essentially an energy that is assembled in a particular way. So think of what is language in general, right? Language means that there's some sort of a sequence of messages put together in order to deliver a particular concept. So language of light is no different. It's essentially the first language, the biggest language out there. And it is not words. It is not any kind of a linear message how we converse here on the planet Earth. It is something completely different. So how do we perceive a language of light? Language of light is essentially an energy that is assembled in a different way, right? So in order to perceive it, we need to have a mechanism that is able to resonate with it. So if somebody is able to tune in to the frequency where those energy codes exist, then that person is going to be able to perceive the language of light. That perception is different depending on what is the strongest sense within each person. So I am visual, right? I perceive energy through the third eye. That's my strong sort of direction of how I interface with the universe. So for me, the language of light is something that I see. It does not look like letters, not even symbols. To me, it looks like geometry. It's a very complex geometrical formula, sort of a geometrical structure that hovers in space when I tune into something, and then when a different component of it comes in, it's another geometrical structure that comes in and sort of interfaces with it, and so on. So I perceive the language through visual means and geometrically. There are other ways to perceive the language of light. For example, sound. One can tune in and the universe will have sort of a resonating sound code, and that sound can vibrate through one system. And then depending on the changes and modulations of that sound, one can sort of perceive what is happening if one knows how to read that. Another way to perceive the language of light could be through spatial, experiential sort of perception. There are people who perceive language of light more by space changing around them. For example, gravity, pressure, tension, texture of space itself, and then depending how their system interfaces with the space change, they are able to read the language of light. Then there are ways to perceive it intuitively. That's when someone doesn't necessarily read it directly, but sort of intuitively gets a hit of what has been delivered, what is the message sort of overall, without necessarily knowing how one got that message. Another way that one can perceive the language of light could be through feeling. When one tunes into it and in the heart chakra or some other way of feeling, sometimes the entire energy field can experience it, there is sort of an experience within one's energy system about a particular frequency. And how that frequency resonates, what it does in little changes of itself, this is how one then recognizes what's going on and what is being said. So that's another way to read the language of light. Then there is a less sort of popular and known way, but there are many. For example, through smell. One can smell different frequencies. For example, seraphim and angelic beings, they smell like lilies. Angels, sort of more regular angels, angeli, they are spheres, glowing spheres. They have a smell of cookies, sort of fresh baked cookies when they show up. There are all sorts of different smell sort of imprints that our brain can pick up in order to comprehend what is happening. That is also a way to interface with the language of light. So there are many ways, And it's important to know your way, not try somebody else's way, because that will never work since, we have we come in pre-installed with a particular pathway. We always have to explore that pathway. Then we can add on to it and learn more, and all of that is possible and great, and we can wake up all sorts of psychic perceptions in how we interface with reality. But we always have to start with what we came originally with into a lifetime. It could be that you're strong in your intuition. It could be that you're able to sense spatial modifications very easily, and how there is alignment change and you feel it texturally or gravity-wise. It could be through feeling for you. Visual is not necessarily the most common way. It just happens to be my way, so that's why I always deliver information to you in a form that describes things visually. But there are many other ways. Sound, for example, is much more common way and probably easier to perceive, actually. And even visual, there are different visual perceptions. I'm more color-oriented and geometry-oriented. So because of it, I perceive the language of light as geometrical structures with vibrating colors and changing colors, and I'm able to read what that means, because my conscious link to the universal intelligence is active. So if, let's say, somebody else perceives it visually too, they might perceive it as blobs of different color that mutate one into another, and that might mean something to them. I don't read it this way. I read it through geometry and the color change. And I'm able, because of that, to have high precision in how that happens. But that is different for everybody. There you go. Tomorrow I will tell you how the language of light can be organized into different programs. So tune in, make sure you visit here. See you tomorrow.